I don't know what I like to stick. It's the summer.
Silent all around the line. If they get the chance, they were born in bloody circumstance. To go, leave me, run like you've never run before. Underground, given room to breathe, not be drowned. So die if you get the chance. Better men than you've been, let this dance. To go, leave me, run like you've never run before. I've seen the worst, and there is nothing left for me to hate, so I can lay me down, my brothers, on the ground. I bled today until Coyote comes to raise me up and carries me.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the Scottish Rugby Podcast, brought to you by the blog I Am Cammy Black. Joining me this evening, we have John Anderson. Good evening, John.
Evening, folks.
And Ian Hay.
Hello. It's far too damn hot today.
It is very well. It's nice. It's nice enough.
It's breezy, but it was breezy. But I went out for a walk. It was. I was.
Is that just? Is it not? Are you not confusing it being hot outside, Ian, with you just going outside?
Quite possibly. Yeah, I've seen how pale I am.
No, last time Ian was outside was the winter of '83. So
I did enjoy it.
That,
people watching live
of
may
American
just
Dad where they get stuck in the well. Like that guy.
People who've tuned in live may have just caught the end of Ian searching for the most appropriate lighting.
It's still not working, yeah. The kind of weird sort of anemic blue glow to me.
We've had nice new downlights put in this room, so I don't look as pale and pasty as I normally. It's giving me quite a nice hue.
You're looking mighty colour, Cammy.
I know, it's good.
Like you're 4K Ultra HD.
It must be quite alarming for people that normally just kind of see my fuzzy fuzzy, unfocused face. Anyway, yes, if you are listening to us, you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere that you can get your podcasts. You can also watch us live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. So hello to everybody who's watching live now. If Andy Lone, regular watcher, good evening, Andy. Every week, Andy. Loyal listener Andy is here watching with us this evening. So if you are watching live, you can jump in the comments and we will pick up the best of them and answer any queries that you have. The big announcement we've got, we didn't do a podcast last week because I was away, and there hadn't really been any rugby either to talk about. But the big thing that we have to announce is we have got the Big Club Dinner 2021. People may have seen details of this already. But we've got a slightly different take on it this year. So last year we did the Big Club Dinner and we asked everyone to donate to your local clubs, send them the cost of a pint of beer or a night out, and also donate to My Name's Doddy as well. And we got a few celebrities to do some speeches. We had Squidge, we had Dougie Donnelly. I still can't believe we got Dougie Donnelly.
Legendary Dougie Donnelly speech.
One of the best club dinner speeches in history.
It was unbelievable.
Spectacular.
He swore. It was magnificent.
It was 10 in the morning and he was on the red wine.
Sitting with a cheeky Beaujolais while making jokes about balls hitting the mattress. It was superb.
We're doing things slightly differently this year. This year we're going to do our own take on Taskmaster. We're calling it Dodmaster. And we've been given an official go-ahead as well by little Alex Horn himself. He wished us good luck. Now that's either good luck with my lawyers when I come and sue you, or good luck with the evening. I'm going with good luck with the evening. He does sanction Taskmaster themed events, so that's good. So we've got a good lineup. We've got representatives for every nation taking part in the Lions tour, including the Springboks. We've got 5 contestants. So representing the Springboks, we've got Robbie from Squidge Rugby. He's representing the Springboks because he has a personal endorsement from Razzie Erasmus, who said this guy knows what he's talking about.
Him and Razzie are actually besties.
Yeah. So we've gone with Robbie for that. And Robbie was on the documentary, actually got onto the documentary about their World Cup win as well. So he's well acquainted.
Can we not change it to like English Premiership teams and he can represent Sale?
I'll nick that joke for the night, Ian.
Sale is mainly South Africans, so it's going to work perfectly.
There was one of Rugby Pass's better memes this week where they had a picture of Chris Hemsworth, and it's a picture of Chris Hemsworth walking along with his son, and Chris Hemsworth has skipped many leg days, and it just had a picture. The upper body was labelled "Sail with the South Africans," and his lower skinny legs were labelled "Sail without South Africans." It was incredibly accurate.
Those arms are ridiculous.
So we also have four contestants representing the 4 nations, the power of coming together to the power of 4. We've got representing Scotland, friend of the pod, Johnny McGinty, is representing Scotland. We've got Sam Larner, who was on the pod previously, is representing Ireland, just because I couldn't get hold of anybody Irish, so Sam's agreed to step in. Apparently his grandfather rescued an Irishman during the war. So that's we're going with that.
That's good credentials right there. That's fine.
That'll do. We've got Steph Prosser, who, again, previously on the podcast for Rock and Roll Rugby podcast, he's representing Wales. And then we've got Lee from the Blood and Mud podcast is going to be representing England. So along the bottom of the screen now, if you go to Just Giving and you search for Dodmaster, you can donate to the evening. So we're raising money for My Name's Doddy. If you go to that page and then find contestants, one of the tasks they have been set is to raise the most money. That's the one task we're making public. So whoever raises the most money between now and the evening will win points on the evening for that. So you can go and find the person representing the nation of your choice, i.e. Johnny. Basically, you want to be donating to Johnny McKenzie with listening to this podcast. And so you can raise the most money. So we're up to £500 already as a combined effort, which is very impressive. So let's see if we can get higher before the night itself. Other details of the tasks will remain secret until the evening, but they are lots and lots. I've seen one entry already, and it's going to be lots of fun. Wouldn't be a Taskmaster or a Dodmaster without some Dodmasters either. And we've got not one, but 3 on the night. John, you are going to be one of our Dodmasters.
I am in, yes.
How are you feeling about it?
I'm looking forward to it. I always find these sort of things, laughing at other people's expense is one of my favourite things to do. So, I mean...
And scoring them.
Exactly, yeah. It's like I get to sit in judgment, drink beer, and take the piss out of people. What more do I need?
What a wonderful evening for you. And we've also got Bruce Aitchison from Happiness is Egg Shape. He's going to be one of our Dodmasters, and Josh, a gardener from the Blood and Mud podcast as well. Now, if anybody thinks that Josh is going to be conflicted with Lee being on there, doesn't know Josh and Lee very well, especially given that Lee's representing England.
Could you have picked a more horrible three, though? Like, we are... I mean, Josh is pretty dry, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I can be a bit... Aye. And, I mean, Bruce is like the super nicest guy in the world, so maybe Bruce is he's the balance.
That's why I chose Bruce. I'm hoping his relentless positivity kind of raises us.
He's just going to give maximum points to everyone for effort.
Well, that's why I've got a very specific scoring point system in place, Ian, so he can't.
He'll still work it, but he'll just rotate them so that it's all it balances out.
Yeah,
everybody
gets
sure everything. Yeah. Me and Josh will keep them in
None of this nil point.
Yeah. So we also, on the evening, we're hoping to have some special guests reading out the tasks as well. We've got Scott Hastings lined up so far, and we've got a couple of other people in the fire. Some very, hopefully, a couple of former Lions are going to be joining us to do that. So it's very exciting. So if you want more details, go to the blog, scottishrugbyblog.co.uk. There's details there of how you can subscribe and watch on the evening. It'll be live at 8:30, Friday the 25th of June. And you'll be able to watch it back afterwards as well, up until the 31st of August, and that's when donations will close. So we're very excited about that. The other bits and bobs of news. Should we start with Dragons in Glasgow first?
Aye, can do.
I mean,
there wasn't an Edinburgh game to talk of, so.
No, there's not. I mean, to be fair, that's what you can ignore. You can legitimately ignore Edinburgh this week, John and Ian.
And does it not look like we can ignore them next week as well? Because Ulster at the moment have got a massive COVID outbreak.
I thought Edinburgh. So both teams have now got a massive COVID. Edinburgh have got
one player, I believe.
Edinburgh have got one player. Yeah.
One becomes 7 so quickly, as you've seen from the Scotland football camp, though.
True.
So
Ulster have got an outbreak as well.
Yes. I do not have it to hand. I'd have to Google it. But I think they've had 4 or 5 players tested positive, and obviously they've got the sort of close contacts and all that kind of thing. They've had to shut off all training, I believe. Same with Edinburgh. So
we don't know, I think, at this point what the rules are with the Rainbow Cup with
it's nil-nils.
Nil-nils.
Mark them as 0-0, yeah. They mark them as 0-0, but if there's fault, they give the points to, I believe they give the points to the team that's not at fault. So they give them the match points, so they give them 4 points, but they don't give them a bonus point.
So how are they determining fault then?
It'd be whoever's not followed protocol, or if
so it's only so they have to establish a breach of protocol,
or if Ulster I would imagine that would be the case, but yeah, but in this case, I mean, Ulster have had more cases, so I would imagine.
Are they allowing it? Are they scoring it 0-0 because the Rainbow Cup is a pointless competition?
Well, you could argue that. It depends on the result versus Leinster next week, or this week coming, whether it's a pointless competition or not. But I mean, at the moment, it still is a pointless competition.
If we are going to talk about the Rainbow Cup, I do need to play the Rainbow Cup theme tune.
Yes!
So here we go. There you go. Come for the rugby, stay for the 80s children's cartoon references.
Stay for the nostalgia. So there's 7 players definitely missing for Ulster this weekend. And then they've got a bunch of other players injured. So Dan McFarlane said they're down to the bare bones in training. So it could be a kids team. Also,
They are also bottom or second bottom of the, let's say, the Rainbow Cup league table, aren't they? So
the bottom of the European side of the Rainbow Cup.
the North.
Then so they're 3 points after 4 games played.
Rainbow North.
Is that it's got the Rainbow North?
Rainbow North and Rainbow South.
How many? So is that not just the top colours?
Yes. Benetton are red, and whatever South African.
Richard of York gave battle in vain.
Yeah,
So,
red versus violet.
Yeah.
When I went to Sainsbury's today, I considered buying bottles of cider or beer with the labels, which would give the representation of the Rainbow Cup, because it's also Pride Month, and I thought it would annoy gammons. So
and we do like to do that. We are fans of that.
We do a bit.
You don't need an excuse. You don't need an excuse to buy cider, Ian. You're a grown man.
Yeah, but to get all the different colours though of labels, it was going to take.
Rhoda would have killed you if you'd rocked up with 7 different ciders of different colours.
Not if they were. If they were flagons, maybe, but if they were just bottles, it would be fine.
Just we donkey ones. We find it.
See, I went for a bottle of rosé because Rona likes a rosé, so I've got a pretty. It's not very nice, to be honest.
No rosés.
No, it's a fact actually. Yeah. It's kind of like it's a halfway house. It's basically, it's like the Christine of wines. It's like a halfway house between really, really, really terrible wine and amazing wine. It's just kind of bang in the middle, bang average, doesn't do anything for you.
It's like the drip tree. They've collected all the drip trees of wine and poured it into a bottle.
It's a great selling point.
You might as well just have alcohol pops and be done with it.
That's a good idea, actually.
Blue Wicked.
Yeah. Anyway, Glasgow versus Dragons. Have Glasgow decided to start trying just because the competition's pointless? Is that what's happened, or have they finally clicked, John?
No, they haven't. And they made utterly horrendous work of putting away what was a distinctly rubbish Dragons team. Yes, they got the bonus point, and yes, the headline is 3 in a row, all bonus points. Whoop whoop whoop. We're still relying so heavily on individual brilliance from players. Apart from that team try, which we'll touch on that in a minute. George Turner is, we talked about him a couple of weeks ago, just driving those players forward. They're relying on individual brilliance, and there's still no game plan. There's still no semblance of a game plan. It's all just individual plays. And when they come up against an organised team who are not Edinburgh with no game plan whatsoever, or the Dragons who are rubbish, they're going to come unstuck. And I think, I really hope that Leinster can't be bothered this weekend. Because if they can be, we're in trouble.
I mean, 12 penalties conceded again. I mean, I think you're in trouble when you're getting into double figures with penalties.
So they say, but with the update in laws, I mean, at the start of the Premiership, you're looking at some teams getting over 20 a game.
Well, 12's a huge improvement for Glasgow as well, because we've been in the 20s the last couple of weeks,
and nobody gets sin-binned, did they? I don't think. No.
There was that thing where there was
a change. Xander nearly did.
Xander nearly did, didn't he?
Aye. I'd like to yell him for that, man. He's about 4 inches away from getting his hand out and doing a proper legal fend. I think even a penalty was maybe a bit harsh.
I think if Xander had been picked for the Lions, then he would have been sin-binned and he would have been cited. I reckon had he not had a Lions tour to look forward to very soon, the referee would not have taken that approach with him.
Slander.
Very good, Cam. Very, very good. Yeah. No, I mean, seriously though, all the things he was doing, all the things he was talking about, he was leading towards. And the TMO, by the way, that was disgraceful from the TMO. Really try to drive him down the route of, no, you really want to be red carding this guy. I I think the referee would have went down that route if he wasn't aware of the connotations of, right, we know that players get red carded, they generally get 2-3 weeks now, regardless of the biscuits. So it's, I just think it probably came into his mind, and, seems to be reasonable.
You don't want to end up ruining your Lions' tour chances based on a Rainbow Cup appearance, do you?
No, I think you'll probably see that the guys will not be playing against Leinster.
Yeah.
The Glasgow boys in particular will not be playing against Leinster.
Yeah. Iain, how are you feeling about Glasgow at the minute? Is it as disjointed as John suggests, or can you see any semblance of a game plan?
Kind of. I think it was just one of those things where things clicked, but obviously the slight reduction in number of penalties conceded and the fact that we managed to keep 15 men on the pitch for the whole game was nice. What I think my main takeaway from it was that Glasgow's problem, like all season, is that we've usually had a man in the bin, and round about half time we've switched off just before half time and just after half time, and this week it was the other way about. It was nice to see. I don't know. See, this thing, I get called cynical. John's far more cynical than I am. But also we need to consider they haven't had a lot of game time together, especially Ross Thompson's come in, and let's be honest, this is one thing that I will hold a grudge against Danny Wilson for, why he continued to pick Brandon Thompson over Ross Thompson. Shall we say the hapless Brandon Thompson?
I think he's gone now. He's gone now, and I think we could, as much as I would, I think the ending to his Glasgow career was fairly tragic. So hapless, aye. The recently departed Brandon Thompson.
But otherwise, it's actually been I've often derided the fact that the experienced players haven't shown up, but it was the likes of Turner, Price, Ryan Wilson, who's actually come on to a game in the last couple of months.
Yep.
Final steps up, and maybe Danny Wilson is starting to get some cohesion together. But I hate to rules, but he has had a tough time. But it's because he's not able to sign anyone very good. But now there's some good players in there. We know who's going for next year. So I really think that we need to give him a couple of months with going in, and as long as Cole Forbes keeps playing, we might be decent next year. But
yeah, I thought Ryan Wilson, and it was interesting because he looked massively off the pace. He's one of those players that's looked off the pace, but he was he put in some really big, quick hits. He looked back to what we know Ryan Wilson can do. I don't know whether, and as captain, that's who you're looking to kind of lead from the front. So I don't know whether it's the younger guys around him are re-energizing him a little bit, or whether he's been given a kick up the bum.
I think it did look a wee bit like some of the senior players who weren't involved in the Scotland camp. And obviously, Ryan Wilson did end up getting a cap in the Six Nations, but inexplicably, but it did look a wee bit like some of those senior players who weren't with Scotland had been told, guys, really, we need to be, if you want to be hanging around here any length of time, you need to be shipping up now. We need to be starting to see something from you, because we've got lots of new boys coming in, and if you've got to the end of the season, it was almost like an ultimatum. You've got to the end of the season to show me what you've got. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting behind these new boys when they come in. But I guess my concern is, I agree with you in some ways, Ian. I think there's, it's almost like it is clicking, but it's clicking individually. I still don't, like, if you were to ask me what is Glasgow's brand of play, we've always known what Glasgow's brand of play was. We always knew what they did. You couldn't really put your finger on it anymore, necessarily, because it's so all over the place at times.
I suppose the difference is, though, that you've still got them kind of playing what's in front of them in the backs, but the forwards seem to have lost the soft underbelly a wee bit. They're playing much. The pack itself seems harder, for want of a better expression. I mean, Rory Darge coming in and playing the way he plays. I mean, unbelievable that Edinburgh have let him go in a way. I mean, you can understand because he's pretty much like someone's literally cloned Hamish Watson because he's got a headband and everything, and pretty much like a more sensible version of Hamish Watson's haircut.
But that's where Hamish Watson gets his power from. So, I mean, that's the thing, though. You look at Edinburgh's back row options. We've talked about Luke Crosby before. He's now up at 50 Edinburgh appearances. But then, he's got Watson, Ritchie, Mata, and all that in front of him. It's almost like the Scotland football team having too many good left backs, and we've just got loads of good back rows. I'll tell you one guy who has made a massive impact since he's come back, Kyle Stein.
Oh yes, yes.
I was used to thinking like when he was hitting peak form last year or whenever last season started, probably 4 years ago.
It was 15 months ago when he was playing Ian. So yeah, a while back.
He's I thought maybe he'd be better at outside centre, but his defensive qualities are very good and he's a good finisher. He's a hard boy, and nearly swore. But he's made a massive impact since he come back. So if we can keep him fit, that's going to be a massive bonus. So I am slightly looking forward to next season, but we'll see how that goes. And obviously, there's been the coaching sort of overhaul as well, with Kelly Brown having to leave.
Well, yeah, we touched on this the last time around, didn't we, John? When we had Craig on, is that the coaching situation at Glasgow is looking a little bit dire. That you've got Danny Wilson, but then to lose two coaches, I mean, apparently to homesickness. And, it's strange times, it's coronavirus, and you can understand people maybe change their plans and stuff, but to lose two coaches in one would suggest that they didn't see much they wanted to stick around for in Glasgow, or there was nothing keeping them there.
Yeah,
that made them want to stay, I suppose.
And, right, so if we're going to be honest about it, coaches are part of an organisation for two reasons. One, they see a succession plan into a role that is a better role for them within that, or they see a development plan, or two, they enjoy working with the manager they're working with. Now, if both coaches have walked for whatever reason, then there has to be questions. Now, I suggested that perhaps they didn't even walk. Perhaps Glasgow's subpar performance this season has led to some very frank discussions that said, actually, we brought you up here and you're not good enough, so goodbye. And, you're homesick, that's going to work out really well in terms of PR. But it could just be that they were very homesick and they wanted to go. But I think there needs to be investment now in the next batch of club coaches coming through. And the same goes for Edinburgh as well. And we touched on it with Craig, that actually some of the coaches Edinburgh have got sadly thinking Duncan Hodge, whilst he's staying inexplicably, they're not good enough. They're not good enough for the programme. They're not going to go on to be international coaches. They're not going to go on to be head coaches. So it's time to cut your losses and try somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting seeing Pete Horn was water carrier on, during the Dragons game, and he seemed to be passing on instructions, and he's taken over. I can't remember what club he's.
Ayr.
It's not Hawks.
Ayr. He's going to Ayr with Pat McArthur.
George Horn was asked, actually, on one of those promo videos, he was asked about who out of the group of players is going to be the next Scotland coach, or a Scotland coach, and he said, my brother Pete, he's got a great brain on him.
Yeah, well, that was something that was Dave Rennie said, wasn't he? He said that Pete Horn was one of the most intelligent players he's ever worked with.
Yep.
Yeah, he's the Joshua Kimmich of Scottish rugby.
He's the Pep Guardiola of Scottish rugby.
Can you imagine Pete rocking up, just fresh from retirement, going, right, we're going to start playing, we're going to play Pete ball. Here we go, guys. This is the Horn philosophy, the horny philosophy. What's
the Pete Horn philosophy? Chuck it 20 yards behind you to nobody?
That's
harsh.
That's brutal, Cam. Brutal. I always remember Pete Horn purely for the sneaky try against Australia
Yeah.
From the ruck. That is intelligent play.
He did that against Wales as well when we got
He
pumped.
did, yeah.
Yes,
Aye.
you know, he's one of these. I would say he's a sort of. This is why I didn't like him at 10, because I'm like, he seems to think about stuff too much. You know, if he's at 12, he's got that extra wee seconds. He's like, right now, I've worked everything out. It's like, you know, gone into his mind palace about how, you know, how this attack should go. But you know, so there's Dave Rennie's, you know, praised him for that. Finn Russell said he was his favourite guy to have outside him because Gordon would just be shouting instructions at him, and then Finn can go, because I'm mental, I'm going now.
I'm not going to listen.
No,
Well, he was in.
he instantly pick the option he thinks best.
Yeah, I mean, he was part of that absolutely amazing Hugh Jones try against South Africa, wasn't he? I think he passed the ball twice in that whole movement, just constantly offloading.
And scored it, finished it off.
Yeah. Speaking of constantly offloading, that Glasgow try.
Yep.
That was exciting.
Clocks in the red, and then you just sucker punched them. Yeah, it was tremendous. Of course, Moriarty should have been off before that anyway. I think it might have been Pete Horn who actually said to Ryan Wilson, by the way, you should captain's challenge that. And then he speaks to the ref, and he's like, it's too late.
It's been longer than 20 seconds.
With this, Andy Loans said, I was going to say this for hands in up, but Andy says, captain's challenge are ridiculous in the Rainbow Cup.
They absolutely are. They absolutely are.
Nobody likes them.
No.
Danny Wilson's been criticising them. I was actually watching the highlights just before we started. Did you see the Munster Cardiff game at all?
No.
See how that ended? So that ended by a captain's challenge. Blues were on the attack with the potential to win the game. They're in sort of round about the Munster 22. Was it maybe Thomas Williams that was come on scrum half? He's rolled the ball back at the ruck. Standers challenged it, but then see at the very end, you hear the Cardiff captain speaking to Andrew Brace on the mic, and Andrew Brace you can actually hear him going, "I don't like it either. No, I don't like this captain's challenge. Nobody likes the captain's challenge. It's making games last 2 hours.
Yeah.
This is not."
They're pointless. It just, like you said, it drags it out. It just kind of takes the kind of climax and crescendos out of matches as well.
There was one, wasn't there, as well, where during the Glasgow game, where they've went to do a captain's challenge, they've been told they can, but then the TMO, because it's been flagged, the TMOs then went, "Oh, I'll have a wee look at that. Oh, wait a second, yeah. And that is scandalous.
Yeah, I think that was the Forbes try. Turner knocked it on.
Scandalous.
Yeah.
Utterly scandalous. And we don't like to make things easy for ourselves in rugby, do we?
How do we fix it though? Because the TMO would miss that first up. Do we have more TMOs?
You just get rid of it. You just have to accept that human beings are fallible.
And sometimes they'll make mistakes.
And that's part of the fun and the enjoyment. As much as we all moan about referees and moan about TMO decisions, part of the fun and the enjoyment you get out of sport is that referees and TMOs will make mistakes and they'll read things wrong, and we'll all have a really good argument afterwards about who was right and who was wrong. And that's fine. We're not, unless you're going to move to a position where you can get computers to start refereeing sports matches, there's just no point.
Yeah.
Tell you what one decision really ground my gears was when the penalty got reversed against Tom Lambert for rubbing Aaron Jarvis's head.
Yes.
We see that countless times in games all the time, and that was just a mind me.
Was that a captain's challenge?
No, that was just
was
that touch judge. I said on Twitter, like, Maro Itoje does that week in, week out. Constantly. Yep. He did it to John Barkley once. John Barkley told him to go away in no uncertain terms. And then Matthew Reynal reversed the penalty because John Barkley swore. So
it's a bit silly, isn't it? It's the one, it was reversed for escalation, and we've seen that a couple of weeks running now where penalties have been like, well, you've done this, however, you've then escalated it by reacting to the fact you've
ruffled his hair.
Yeah. And it's like there really has to, like, referees are being, I get like what you're getting trying to do manage the spectacle and change player behaviour, and I get that, but it's not consistent. And if players are going to, if any escalation point is going to be penalised and the penalty reversed, then enforce that across the board. Sort out that Roman Platt I told you. Sort out guys like that and deal with it there and then. Otherwise, just leave it alone.
There was a scrum that happened a few minutes earlier, which Glasgow won a penalty at, and you saw Ryan Wilson flip the bird at Ross Moriarty. How come? Surely then, if you're going to penalise Tom Lambert, should you not have penalised Ryan Wilson?
We're getting into it's kind of getting into pearl clutching, and won't somebody think of the children? What's going to happen when our children watch this and start ruffling each other's hair on a rugby pitch, copying their heroes?
That's it, yeah. Tapping each other on the heads after a.
Aye. Hashtag let the boys play. Let the boys ruffle hair.
Where's your klaxon? Oh dear.
Yeah. So I mean, Glasgow looking in serious danger of actually qualifying for the Rainbow Cup playoff.
The pointless Rainbow Cup.
Isn't Danny Wilson on record and saying he doesn't want to win it?
Probably.
I missed that one. Probably. Set expectations too high. Is that?
I think it's just, isn't it just that the Wallaby? It's getting played when the Lions are. Well, no, they're not probably going to play the Lions anyway. But I think it's a long season otherwise.
Yeah, can understand that. I mean, a pointless trip to Italy just now seems fairly. Yeah, although it'll be silverware. It'll be like when Scotland won the Kirin Cup over in Japan.
Well, the Nations, the 2009 Nation, we won the 2009 Nations Cup.
We did, yeah. I know we're going back to defend that, aren't we? Back to take on Romania and Georgia once more.
Yeah. So I think that's all we've got. Well, one more point. Gordon McCracken says he's gutted. Lucatui's going. How do you feel about that, you two?
He's certainly been better than, well, less red cardy than TG Ioane. Lucatui's played well. I quite like him. But Jack Dempsey's coming in. Obviously, that's quite a big money signing. So it's maybe just no room at the end. But no, he's performed very well, or better than most, shall we say. So yeah, good luck to him at Ashen. But there's maybe just not enough room for him, and to appease the possibly older generations, it means that it'll give a young Scottish boy a chance.
We've also had Nico and Alex Allen have announced their away as well.
Do you want to pay tribute to Nico?
I mean, I've got my chair here.
Just stand on your chair again. And
we've got the Chris Fusaro. Did you discuss that last?
We did. Well, we had, because Craig plays for Howard Fife, so we had a proper kind of tribute to Chris Fusaro 2 weeks ago.
I can't remember if that was. Oh, there also, if on the off chance that anyone's a Warriors season ticket holder and the email went into your spam, there's a Zoom meeting thing about Chris Fusaro and Tommy Seymour, sort of retirement party. Which I haven't signed up for yet. I forwarded it up on my pal who has the other ticket that I pay for. But Fusaro and Seymour. So if you haven't signed up for that and you want to, check your spam box.
Well, that's a lovely touch.
Mm-hmm. It's good. We missed out a few last season. There was a few heads went away without us being able to say bye. So that's really good. And I think Nico could still do a job somewhere. It's just the age profile of Glasgow backs needs to come down. He has been first time round. He was the original, the OG Fiji Fiji, wasn't he? And he was so much part of what Glasgow were trying to do at that time, in that he was utter chaos from either 9 or on the wing, just complete and utter madness. And this time round, he's added something. He's added a bit of depth to the squad. He's obviously not been at the level he was when he left first time round, but he's done good things. I'll always remember the the Nick Gregg try.
Yes. Oh my God, that is just the most.
It was peak Nico, just utterly burned a whole defence. Could have ran it in himself, but went, do you know what? No, I can't be bothered. And Nick Gregg's ran all this way with me, and he looks like he wants to try. So, in classic mad Nico style, have some, son. On you go.
He's probably still feeling guilty for that time he nicked Hogg's hat trick try.
No, I was going to say that. Do you remember when he raced Hogg? I was when Hogg was about to leave as well. Did you remember how angry he was? Oh, bless. Brilliant. So,
did we still have a grass pitch back then?
We did, yeah, because they both slid for miles.
If anybody has missed this, I think it might be either a Rugby Pass thing or a interview with Ryan Wilson talking about the first Nico Matawalu's first Christmas in the UK when he took him down to Essex to meet his family, and Nico Matawalu spent the entire weekend absolutely smashed.
That sounds
well worth looking. I'll try and put. If I can find it, I'll put a link on Twitter to that. So
I think the one on Twitter that I think really kind of summed it up, probably just to finish up on Nico, was lots of people sharing the thing that you say the name Nico Matawalu to a Glasgow fan or to a Rugby fan, and they smile, and that summarises it. He puts a smile on Rugby fans' faces, and particularly Glasgow fans' faces. He has been part of so many memories for us, and he will go with, again, our big smiles, but best wishes, and just an amazing Glasgow servant.
Yeah. The other news, we salute there from Iain and John for our audio listeners. The other news is Mike Blair, he's being described as interim head coach. Sounds weird because that sounds like there's going to be a new head coach.
He's
caretaker. Caretaker Scotland coach Mike Blair has announced his squad of 37 player squad for the summer series. All are going to be available for the A fixture on the 27th of June, and then it's going to be a smaller squad of 29, I think, are going to go and play full internationals against Romania and Georgia on the 10th and 17th of July. So my understanding is that the A game is not a capped fixture, but will still capture anybody that plays in it under the World Rugby rules for eligibility, because Scotland have designated the A team as a capturing side. But you won't get a cap if you play. So some players are going to be in a situation, we'll come on to some of those players that might be affected by this, in a situation where you may be selected to play against England, not get a cap, but then be bound to Scotland. It's classic banter picks again, isn't it?
You were suggesting you had some dubious thoughts regarding some of the banter picks, Cam. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, well, it's the classic thing with the Scotland squad being announced is that, we are not we're rugby fans on this podcast, but we're not geeks to the extent we don't know every single Scottish qualified player playing, even within the British Isles, let alone further afield. And I know some people out there, do that, and they follow every player's career, and that's wonderful that you've got the time to do that. But we haven't. So, like everybody else, we sit there on the Scotland squad announcement day and we go, "Who dat?" Every single time, and we have to get on Wikipedia and Google and figure out who the hell some of these guys are.
Because, and hope to be honest, haven't been there first.
To be honest, Robin Hislop sounds like a disgraced Tory MP from the 80s. That was my first reaction to Robin Hislop, or a Telegraph journalist. That's what he sounded like.
I mean, it does have that kind of classic vibe about it, doesn't it? Like,
yeah,
the blue wall of England.
Javan Sebastian, I had I'm pretty sure I saw him support I Am Clute in the 2000s. Didn't we acoustic set? Signed to Twisted Nerve for an EP, and then when he got signed to Ireland, he really struggled to deliver his debut album. That's the image I got when I heard that name.
Yeah,
the other one was
Nick Otterak.
Nick Otterak. sounds like, I don't know, it sounds like the cat, like a first act Bond villain who's set up to be the main villain but then dies and turns out he's the front for the main villain who appears in Act 3.
I was going to say, it sounds like the sommelier on like Saturday Kitchen or something like that.
Well, that's better than mine.
Wines with Nick Otterak, wines of the world.
There's your wiki page, Cam. Go.
I was thinking he sounds like he spent his summers going back to Jersey, driving about in a Triumph Roadster, solving crimes.
Oh, they're all strong. They're all strong.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Bayless has been announced before, but I think he sounds like a posh comedian.
Yeah, possibly friends with your thingy Whitehall.
Yeah, that kind of set.
It also, like, the name Bayless to me kind of really invokes Californian surf rock music. So he sounds like he might be touring with Queens of the Stone Age.
Yeah, so that was, so there was a bit of that. Now, the interesting things with it is that they're all props. So Nick Otterak, Robin Hislop, and Javan Sebastian are all front row forwards. Now, Nick Otterak, I think, is 29. No, Robin Hislop is.
Hislop's 29, Otterak's 28, and Sebastian's 28.
28.
Wow.
Hislop and Otterak are loose heads, and Javan, is it Javan or Javan? I don't even know. He's tight head usually, but
he had a season at Glasgow and never played. I think he played most of the time at Ayr.
Yeah, he was one of the lesser spotted props that we had at that point, alongside multiple. There
you go. Martin Bell says Nick Otterak was a character in Blake 7.
Nice.
The thing is, for me, I mean, I kind of get it because I forgot when Mike Blair was being interviewed. He said it's only 2 years to the World Cup, and I think in my head it's still 4 because of coronavirus time's just meaningless now.
Yes.
So I'm thinking you're calling up 29-year-old. He's going to be well past it by the time we get to the World Cup, without realizing it's only in 2 years' time. So actually, he's only 31. Robin Hislop signed for Wasps, I think, recently. He's been playing most of his time down in the Championship. He's signed for Wasps recently. And I think there is that argument, isn't it, that props come into their own in their late 20s, early 30s. So I suppose there is an element of just seeing what these guys are about.
Well, if you think about it as well, and I was just doing a wee bit of frantic Googling there, WP Nell only qualified age 29.
Yeah.
So
I think it's different, though, because WP Nell came over to Scotland with the desire to qualify for playing for Scotland by the age, and he knew he was going to do that, and he came across, I think, with a certain pedigree. I don't think that Robin Hislop's, I think, a Scotland under 20s player, but he's been playing most of the time in the Championship. WP Nell was playing top flight South African rugby when he came over, was quite highly thought of. There we go. Gordon McCracken pointing out that Dave Perry didn't become the best player in the world till he was 30.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, but I do think Nick Otterak's been kicking around for a while and been promised to be the next big thing. I think, Ian, did you dig up something where saying that he had desires to play for England not long ago?
Yeah, when he left Bath under a bit of a cloud.
I will talk about that in a minute.
But yeah, when he joined Harlequins, he said, obviously, I'm going to be like Joe Marler's his first choice loose head, but I've got ambitions to play for England. So there's another thing for Gammons to get raging about. If I'd actually brought my cider collection of my multicoloured cider collection, but no, he's had some injury issues. But so Suz had 2 years at the game with various injuries, and like you said, it seems to be that once the props seem to hit they know all the nasty stuff to do when they get to like 29, 30. I think somebody like Xander Fagerson, he's going to hit that earlier because he's been playing since he was about 17. But especially Hislop, I think Hislop, you have to applaud him for he's like you said, he's been playing in Championship level. He's been at Doncaster Knights of late, but now he's gone up to the big show. And we're so desperate for props that right. But you've got a Scottish granny. All right, cool.
It's almost like they've picked three that they're aware of. Because let's be honest, we've talked about this as a tour. It's a development tour, and some of the names, and I'll touch on this in Hands of the Ruck as well. Some of the names that are missing from the tour, who are not with the British and Irish Lions. This is clearly a development tour, and as you rightly say, it's 2 years out from a World Cup. We potentially think that, WP Nell is probably still, I would almost go as far as to say second choice tight head, because I think Simon Bergen's guff. But, you could toss a coin between the two of them, really. I still think Nell's better. But Nell will be 37 at the World Cup. Is he going to make the World Cup?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yes, he will, because he can still play 80 minutes and is an absolute tank, right? And loves a chicken wing. So he's going to be there. But
you've got Pierre Schumann coming, I suppose, as well in the front row, and this other lad's coming through. That's true.
Loose head. Schumann's a loose head. Kebble's a loose head. Jamie Batty, loose head. These guys that are considered to be international class at the moment are all loose heads. We've got Xander and then nobody, because Bergen's, he's not good enough, right? And he's coming over to Glasgow, so he's now a Glasgow player, and I get to say that he's still not good enough. So it's almost like just a free hit to say, here you go, guys. Somebody show us, are you going to be second, third choice at the World Cup? Come, give us a show. See what you can do.
Who's the young...
away to... Sorry, interrupt there. Darcy Rees away to Bath, isn't he?
That's not a... Bath. Yeah. That's not a surprise. He has been extremely poor this season. And he's been poor for a few seasons, actually. He's just not kicked on for me. And I think it's not surprising he's off on his joys.
Who's the young prop that Glasgow have been playing the last couple of weeks?
Tom Lambert.
The head ruffler, Tom Lambert.
Yeah.
Tom Lambert, who held up against WP&L.
Aye.
Is he... I know it's probably the wrong side of the scrum then, but are you guys surprised that he's not been called up for this too? Because Xander got called up when he's 18, and you look at him now.
I think it's a couple of months too early. He's just signed his first professional contract, and I think there's arguments to be said. You know what you're going to get from an Ollie Kebble, but I don't think so. What are you laughing at, Ian? Hey.
I've just looked at the comment section, because I've just seen Moshe Chen and Gordon McCracken have said about Kebble possibly covering tight head. I said that to you guys during our private chat, I think, didn't I? Because there's 4 Lucy's and 2 tights. 2 tights, yeah. But just the one before that, Sweet Jesus is the perfect evolution of beards.
Polar Nights, yes. One of our Twitch. I think some Americans sometimes accidentally stumble across us on Twitch. So, and I can see it now looking at us on camera. Yeah, it is the... We also need a fourth with a fuller beard. We need...
I could grow mine out a wee bit for us.
It's just funny. I went to see my mum last week. She was like, I watched the wee your podcast today. There's a guy who looks like you, but balder. Oh, God. Don't make me get into the whole G and Ander Hay thing.
That's brutal. You shouldn't talk about Cammy like that.
I won't say what else she said about you, but never mind.
Well, mate, I'm not. I'll talk to you afterwards.
Yeah. So what? The squad then itself. So in the forwards, you've got Cameron Henderson's been called up, which I think he's been playing quite well down at Leicester.
Yep.
There's not, aside from those 3, there wasn't many surprises. Ewan Ashman has obviously thrown his lot. There was a suggestion he might go with England this summer, but he's obviously thrown his lot in with Scotland.
Well, give it. Ashman's a hooker, right?
So there's 4. Is there 4 hookers or 3? Grant Stewart, George Turner,
Dave Cherry, and Ashman.
Dave Cherry's there, and
so
Ashman.
4 hookers. 4 hookers on tour.
Ashman's coming in at the right time, because you're looking at George Turner and Dave Cherry are the next off the ranks on the hooker stage. You've got Fraser Brown and Stuart McInally, who Fraser Brown's now penalty machine, and McInally does. We're starting to see struggles for fitness a wee bit between the two of them. So Ashman's maybe seeing an opportunity there. If he can come in, do a wee job, maybe get himself third choice, get into a squad somewhere, and then a wee injury gets you on the park. I think there's I think it's smart from him because you're not going to get near an England team just now.
No.
Hooker.
I suppose the other one, you've got Magnus Bradbury's come back in, which I'd be interested to see whether he ends up playing lock or back row. And then Kieran Mcdonald, now it's not, he's one of these players that you think, I feel like a Damien Hoyland kind of thing. You think, oh, he's a young lad that's kicking on. Then you realise he's 26.
Yeah, it's just he's not had these injury problems to seek. But I mean, he's a huge guy. Was he 6'8", 6'9"?
Yeah, he's a big lump, boy.
And he's had some back problems. Same with Richie Gray. I mean, I suppose if you're having to arch your back over and reach into rucks and hit those tackles, that's one thing. Richie Gray. One thing you can never say about the Grey boys is they lack work effort. They get stuck in like you won't believe. But obviously, all that extra height and getting smacked, it's probably not good for your spine. I'm not a physio.
I wouldn't imagine so.
No. But no, this when he's only made something like 15 or 16 appearances for Glasgow, according to his
That is ridiculous, isn't it? He's been there or thereabouts for, I mean, it's felt like 4 or 5 years.
But he's only ever managed to make like maybe 5 games in a row. Then that's his
three games in a season. Yeah. And when he's on form, though, he's such a good player. Very solid. He does. Again, your comparison to Richie Gray is very, very apt, actually, because he does a lot of the things Richie Gray does very well. He's a very good line-out operator. He's very good in close contact. He'll carry hard. He'll get involved in that side of the game. Maybe his defensive game isn't as strong as say some other locks, but he still makes his tackles and he works hard. But it's it's good to see him get a call up, and I'll be interested to see he'll get a cap, and we'll see how he goes. But I mean, he's not going to be troubling. We've got so many locks. That's the thing. We have got so many locks.
The one, I mean, do you want to talk about emissions now? Is your hands in the ruck, John, more to do with people's reactions to the emissions or the emissions themselves?
It's more to do with the reaction to the emissions.
Let's park that for hands in the ruck. Now let's talk about some of the emissions. Now, Tom Gordon's not been called up, and I think some people have asked, particularly in our wee super secret social media group for our Patreons, have asked why Tom Gordon hasn't been called up. And I think if you look at the backs, although it hasn't been said, I've got a sneaky suspicion that some overseas or players who've come from overseas to play in Scotland may have asked for time to go and visit family over the break, because Jakob van der Volt's not in the backs. I would have thought he would have been a shoo-in for a call-up. So I wonder whether or not some players, Ian, like Tom Gordon and Jakob, have said, look, this is one of the only chances we're going to go back, we'll have to spend 2 weeks in quarantine, I'll get a couple of weeks with my family, and then I'll be back in time for pre-season. So I'd rather not go into a thank you very much in June.
Yep, and it makes perfect sense. They've also said that guys like, obviously, your Johnny Grays and that have been left out because he's been playing week in, week out. Well, before he got injured in Six Nations, he's been playing a lot, and he will be expected to play for Exeter. And also, that guy has been playing like Xander since he was 18. So there's a lot of fatigue in those big, broad, battering shoulders of Johnny Grays. And it does, with all due respect to the opposition, which makes it sound like I'm slagging them, because I slightly am. This is a development tour. If we were playing anyone who's tier 1, there would be more of the big boys in.
Yeah.
But there are still, experienced heads in there. Well, obviously Jamie Ritchie, the captain as he is now, which we've all been theorising would happen for years, because he's an absolute beast of a player. So he's getting to go, and I think he's not one of these. He never strikes me as one of these big shouty kind of people. But he's one of those captains who leads by example. And you see him in the trench beside you, like, right, if he's going in, I'm going in as well, because I know he's going to it's proper Braveheart kind of stuff, but
I do think. I mean, it's that thing as well. Who's injured? Tom Gordon. I don't think this Tom Gordon is injured.
He missed the game at the weekend.
Yeah, I don't think
he's not on the he's not on the unavailable list. So I think he might be carrying a niggle, but I don't think he's officially out with anything long term.
He's played a decent wee bit of rugby this season as well, and he's been certainly one of Glasgow's more active players this season. I wouldn't be surprised if he was getting a wee couple of weeks off just to kind of continue things.
Well, we were saying just that you had to dash off, John, but we were saying I think there's a few players there that haven't been called up that maybe have family overseas who want the opportunity maybe to get back. And I think looking at 2 weeks quarantine to get to New Zealand or even South Africa for someone like Jaco van der Walt, then of course you'd prefer to do that given the situation we've been in for the past 18 months than go and play Georgia and Romania on a,
Well, that's it as well. And there is also... We often think about international call-ups as being a one-way transaction, but it's a request to be called up, and people can decline it and say, "Do you know what? No, I'm going to have a wee summer off. I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to go down to Largs."
Fight seagulls.
I can imagine. Fighting seagulls down on Largs that's a very Tom Gordon reason for not going.
I am going to invite Tom Gordon down to Largs. We're going to go down. We're going to get a chippy. I'm going to fight some seagulls. Although I'm terrified of birds, so he'll have to fight them. But I'll be there and morally support them.
He'd gladly do that and probably stick the nut on them as well. The other big omission, I suppose, is Rory Hutchinson, which quite a few people have raised, and I wonder if this is down to a development thing as well. That they've seen what Rory Hutchinson can do in a Scotland shirt in the warm-ups to the France game, and they've got a couple of other centres who they haven't seen. So you've got Sienna Tuipulotu, if I'm pronouncing that right, who's coming in who's coming into Glasgow. You've got Kyle Stein as well, Matt Scott, who hasn't played for Scotland for a few years now. So I wonder how much of it is just, well, we know what Rory Hutchinson can do. So it's a development tool. Let's give some other guys some caps.
But we don't really, because he's not played much. He's probably I don't have the official stats, but he's played less international minutes than James Lang, I would imagine. Because James Lang started against Wales and he was capped beforehand. Is it maybe Hutchinson's played? He seems to be like first choice at Northampton, or maybe he gets rotated out every now and then, but he's certainly in the first team squad. But I find it a bit odd. Because he can do 12 and 13. He's a baller. He's a 12 baller, or he can play the run in 13 effort. And you think, because Tooney wants a distributor at 12, this would be a fine time to see what Hutchinson can do at an international level, or maybe they just.
They did an interview, I think, during the Six Nations where he said that he was in touch with Gregor Townsend, and Gregor Townsend had told him what he wanted to work on it, and he had a positive relationship with him. So it's either they're giving him a rest or he's not doing what they need him to do when he's playing for Northampton.
Yeah, I think there's an element of... People have talked a lot about the intensive season that it's been down south, because obviously the pro whatever we've had has curtailed itself in some ways. We had an early finish to the season last season, a couple of fixtures. England have played every game. The English teams have played every game, and they've really condensed their season in. And I do wonder, like Matt Scott he's played for Leicester. He's played a decent amount for Leicester, but he didn't play last season at Leicester. Whereas Rory Hutchinson has been one of the top picks for Northampton for almost 2 years consecutive. And I do wonder if there's a bit of welfare thinking here because if we remember when Hugh Jones came over to Scotland, he almost played 2.5 years of rugby consecutively because of various tours. And I do wonder if 2 years out from a Rugby World Cup, people are thinking, do you know what, 2 years is plenty of time to work yourself into a squad.
Yeah.
Go and take a wee summer off and just do basically what New Zealand do: have a wee sabbatical, have a wee chill. But I actually think, like, I'm trying to justify it, but I don't think leaving Rory Hutchinson out is, unless he's put his hand up and said he's too tired. I don't think it's the right move.
No, I'd agree with that. The other one, Martin Bell's comment saying Ben Vellacott is an interesting omission.
Come on.
I mean, you've got Jamie Dobie, and you've got. I mean, it is interesting in that he's been signed by Edinburgh, and you would think that they'd want to see what he can do.
Or they would want to give him the opportunity to move to Edinburgh.
Possibly. Well, there's that as well, isn't there?
Which is what they've talked about in previous summer tours, where they've given players off the time off to move and go to where they need to be.
Martin Bellos and Finlay Christie is obviously the other big omission. We should mention, if we mention Ben Vellacott, we've got to mention Finlay Christie as well.
Exactly, yeah. That's actually the legally mandated scrum half chat, yeah. Right, okay. I want to really be proven wrong, but people believe that Ben Vellacott is going to be the saviour of Edinburgh rugby and saviour of Scottish rugby are absolutely and utterly howling at the moon. And I'm sorry, guys, but you're wrong. He's not good enough. He would have been playing for Scotland if he was good enough. He's not good enough. Let's continue, please.
Yeah. It'd be interesting, especially as we discussed with Craig the other week, that he's coming into Scotland to play in, in Richard Cockerell's system.
Cocker ball.
Yeah. Which, is really, really rewards the skills from his backs. Really brings them into play.
I'm sure Vellacott will get very good at box kicking.
So, yeah, I'm convinced that's why Darcy Graham insists on throwing himself at so many rucks, is just to kind of keep himself in the team. If I don't throw myself into rucks, then I've got nothing else to do because the ball never comes out to the wing for Edinburgh.
Richard judges me on the number of rucks I hit. I'm a winger, but he judges me.
So in the backs, I mean, Alan McDonald saying Scott's there to be the grown-up in the backs.
I mean, there's enough experience in there with Hastings, Horn. I mean, Hoyland's been around the place. Kinghorn's an international. Lang's played plenty. Kyle Stein is very experienced. There's plenty of grown-ups there. I think Scott's there to give him one last chance, basically.
There's 4 scrum halves in that squad as well. I mean, I know Scott still plays anywhere. I know.
Yeah. So he plays everywhere.
Is this the final death knell for Duncan Taylor's Scotland career? I think so.
I think so. Yeah.
He's off hiring out camper vans somewhere in Cornwall now, I think, isn't he? That's what he seems to be doing on his Instagram.
And before the guys say it, Duncan Weir is not in the squad because he's moving to Glasgow. Yeah. So just to be very clear.
Well, I don't think that's the only reason, but Gordon McCracken says Finlay Christie had a good game for the Blues over the weekend, and it led to a slew of posts from Kiwis and Aussies asking why we hadn't capped him yet. The reason why is because he's not in Scotland or in the Northern Hemisphere. And we don't tend to do that because the seasons all get messed up.
If we capped him, he wouldn't be able to play Super Rugby, so we'd have to buy his contract.
Yep, and also you can't. It's hard to get players released during the European international windows from Super Rugby as well, unless the windows coincide, when they only coincide in the autumn and World Cups. So I think there was an interview he's done which said that pre-coronavirus he was looking at a move to the Northern Hemisphere. I think for me, and I think we've discussed this previously, it's more likely to be the English Premiership or France than it would be Scotland, because I'm not sure where. I don't think there's any room now. I mean, at Edinburgh or Glasgow for scrum halves.
There's not any room at Glasgow, and it would be utterly devastating to see him rock up at Edinburgh and be just tortured for a season before leaving under a cloud and going to Edinburgh, going to France.
Go to Northampton.
I go to exactly, yeah.
Or Worcester.
Play with Dan Bigger.
Yeah. Douglas says four scrum halves, but no space for Sam Hidalgo Klein.
Do you want to take this one?
It's a decent point, but we know what SHC is capable of. Whereas George Hawes only got 14 caps, and I imagine the accumulated minutes is probably not even hit triple figures yet.
Yeah.
But he still put tries per minute is the most prolific scorer Scottish Rugby's ever seen.
That's when he's like Pentagon wheel goes massively spiking up like that. But obviously, Dobie and Shield, they're the hot young prospects. And we know Scott Steele's versatility. But I do see that. But again, it's one of these positions where we do seem to be blessed with decent depth.
Yeah.
And is it a thing with Sam Adabo-Klein? His attitude has frequently been brought into question.
Well,
And maybe it's not his attitude, but maybe it's just that him and Gregor Townsend don't get on. Or
there's a couple of people suggesting he's fallen down the pecking order at Exeter anyway. I think he had that great kind of
turnover
period.
He needs to find himself in a position where he can swap clubs like once a season, and then he have a really great debut season, and then he has to find another club before he finds it has a dip in form.
Yeah, he's the guy who tends. Yeah, he's the opposite of the guy who plays well when his contract's come to an end. Duncan Weir.
Any more about that squad? I mean, we've got Gordon McCracken saying he's excited to see Cameron Henderson. I think I'd agree with that.
Cameron Henderson, back to our point previously, Cameron Henderson's a name that really screams to me head boy at a public school.
It says to me like someone said, I'm his dad, I'm Scottish. He's getting the most Scottish name possible.
Yes. Cammy, William, Jefferson, Henderson.
I think Alex Craig sounds like the lead character in a young adult novel about a spy.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
I
haven't got
before
any more.
I get any more trouble about Ben Bellicott, let's move on.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to this when I can find it. Yes, it is time for Hands in the Ruck or any other business section of the podcast. I am aware of a Where's Doogie Donnelly this week, and it's a magnificent one. It's from Johnny McGinty, but he sent it to the Blood and Mud podcast and not us. So automatically docking him points. From the
Absolutely, yeah. Minus 10 he's starting on.
I'll tell you anyway. He saw Pierre Schumann in an all-you-can-eat buffet. Schumann.
Oh my God.
It gets better. Pierre Schumann went to the pizza counter and they said, it'll be 10 minutes for your order. So he took away a buzzer. Went to the pasta counter. They said, it'll be 5 minutes for your order. So he took a buzzer. Then he went to the salad bar, finished his salad. And then when his buzzers went off, went and got the other meals and ate them as well.
Oh,
unbelievable.
That's big. I love an all-you-can-eat buffet. It's good times.
Do you ever hear of a heavyweight English boxer called David Price, Big Scouser? Apparently he get papped out a Chinese all-you-can-eat buffet once because it was like, you've eaten too much food.
That's a goal, isn't it? When you go in all-you-can-eat, like to actually be escorted off the premises.
8 full plates, apparently.
Legend.
They papped a bit.
Brilliant. Absolutely magnificent. Well, Johnny McGinty, you are now my hands in the ruck for your blatant disregard for you. Where do your loyalties lie, sir?
Anyway, let's go for our hands in the ruck. John, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I've had a little bit of a reaction to... So when the Scotland squad was announced the other day, as we've indicated so far, there's been a number of, let's say, bigger name omissions and people out for a variety of reasons. And I just don't get this incessant need we have as Scottish. I say we, I'm using very much the royal we with regards to this. The incessant need we have to immediately jump onto social media and jump up and down, throw our toys out the pram, and ask, "Where's this person? Why is this person not in? It's a disgrace. This person should feel robbed." When it takes 30 seconds to just kind of walk through the idea. So, it's a development tour. It's very clearly a development tour. Guess what? Premium tours don't go on tour to Romania and Georgia. Premium tours don't play A fixtures. This is not a normal tour. This is not a summer tour over to, well, I mean, we've not even, I mean, summer tour-wise, we've not really done a big summer tour in some time. The closest we've come is maybe touring that quadrangular thing where we played South Africa once.
Yeah, that was during the 2 Lions tours ago. That was
that was
South Africa, Samoa,
Italy,
and Italy.
And even then, we still took hundreds of uncapped players. Adam Ash hadn't even played for Glasgow at that point, and he made that tour.
That was a different tour.
Was that a different tour?
Yeah,
that was the one.
Later.
That was the one that
we absolutely pumped. But is that
it was 56-0 or something? We lost to South Africa that game. Ooh, that was when we went to Argentina. That was the US. That was Vern Cott's
was that not tour. The US, Argentina, South Africa?
It was
we've basically done a global tour.
It was Vern Cott's first.
Where Finn Russell made his debut.
Yep.
Okay, so these tours are development tours. Summer tours are not designed to be, let's throw all our big guns out there and go and play some rugby. So, 2 years out from a World Cup, as we've said, we've touched on this, guys like Johnny Gray, to come onto a social media platform and go, "Where's Johnny Gray? He's been dropped." It's utterly bizarre and really just, it distresses me because it takes 3 seconds to work out why he's not there.
I think as well, and also just to wait for, because these teams are invariably followed by a press conference where all the journalists get to ask these questions anyway, and also a statement by Scottish Rugby, and in the interview, Mike Blair did with the official Scottish Rugby channels, he specifically said, "We're giving Johnny Gray a rest," and there's a few other players we want to give a rest to as well.
Yeah, it's
you can't expect them to kind of like produce a list of every Scottish qualified player and start telling you why, whether they're resting them, whether they've dropped them, whether they've asked them to do more work or not. I mean, the journalists might ask in a press conference, will ask specific about specific players and say, any reason why you've not picked him or...
Well, that is the absolute point. Like, if you're bleating on social media saying, where is... Like, the great one was, where's Cameron Redpath? How many people have asked, where's Cameron? Cameron Redpath's got an ACL injury. He's out for a year. Like, it's very, very clear where Cameron Redpath is. He's not happy right now.
If you want to know where Cameron Redpath is, you Google him.
Yes, exactly.
And then you find out he got injured 2 weeks ago.
Cameron Redpath out with ACL injury, out for calendar year. It's really, really strange. But there's also an entitlement. I've talked a lot about Scottish Rugby fans' entitlement, and I don't want to be disrespectful here, but we have this expectation that we are so much more clever than everyone else that we've thought of the only player that hasn't been picked, and that it's our outrage is somehow really unique to everything. See if you've thought of it. 10,000 other people have thought of it, and 100 journalists have thought of it. And right to your point, Cammy, they've probably asked it, and you'll probably hear about it. So just chill.
It's fine. I mean, I think the debate's fine, isn't it? The debate about I would have taken him over him. It's the hysterics about I can't believe that this player's he's utter rubbish. And
I was reading someone should feel there was a statement about someone should feel robbed that they're not in that squad. It's like, what, robbed that you're not getting to go and play Romania and Georgia in pointless summer tests? Aye, yes, robbed, guys. Come on.
Martin Bell says the tour is always going to be a development tour, given that we were always going to have so many away with the Lions. Looks like a well thought out development squad.
100%, It does. It looks like a very good development squad.
And there's the kind of the line in the room, as it were. As we've not been in this situation for a number of years now. mean, 2009 we didn't even do a summer tour, and we only had 2 players away on lines due to that year. We didn't even bother to go on tour because they were all on 2 good players. Everybody else was so bad in 2009. We couldn't even bear to be without, Ewan Murray and Ross Ford.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yes, I agree with that. I think that's a fair comment. Ian, your hands in the ruck.
I've got a number, actually, one of which stems from press conferences and Neil Musagi. But I should tell you what, one that's really annoyed me. Again, actually, these fit together. Did you see Damon Mckenzie's red card at the weekend?
No.
Right.
Yes, I did, yeah.
Yeah, right. Now, it's a straight red, isn't it, Cammy?
I'm off to Google it.
Yeah.
You Google that, John.
It's a lazy tackle, and he's turned and leapt his shoulder into Tate McDermott's face. And Mckenzie's not a big guy, right? So, it's not difficult for him to get low. But he's turned and leapt into Mckenzie's face. But then you had on the broadcasters, Sky Sports in Australia, New Zealand, there was Will Genia, Michael Cheka. I can't remember who else was on, but there's been other people afterwards saying that they were like, but he brings so much entertainment to the game. You can't red card him, we should give him kind of leeway because he's such a fantastic player. Oh, fantastic! He might have just fractured Tate McDermott's eye socket. But he's that guy, so that's cool. Yeah, it's a horrible tackle, isn't it? Yeah.
Ouch.
And Brad Weber's face is amazing. He's like, "A red card, really, mate?" I'm straight red. But it's this thing, like, when you have a press, people in the press sitting there saying this and this and this. This is why press conferences are so dull, right? Now, obviously, I don't imagine many of our listeners have ever sat around press conferences, but they're dull because it's the same stuff every week, and the same. Well, I mean, how much is there to talk about? But also, one of the big things is the people in the press conferences are usually old, crusty, white dudes like me.
Yeah.
But, and that's why there is this disconnect now between, or why players get media managed to bits, as people say, and that's why everyone gets raging about how there's no characters in the game. Because of stupid comments that are levelled like that, and if any of your tennis fans or sports fans in general, if you've heard about the thing with Naomi Osaka, who said she wasn't going to do press conferences anymore because it was damaging to her mental health, and then they sort of fight back on that, including obviously from Piers Morgan, who is a prized all the swear words you can think of. The problem isn't the sports people; it's the journalists, and the fans, right? Because of some of the rubbish that gets launched that way. See, if you're wanting sports people to be open and give you, let you find out about who they are, don't hit them with the same crap every week, because it's dull. It is dull. And some people are introverted. I mean, have you ever seen Naomi Osaka in a press conference? She looks like the most uncomfortable human being in the universe. Yeah. There needs to be a sort of middle ground in all sports, not just rugby, but whereby we can get access to players and learn about the players without it just being channeled in this one. You can only say this. We can only do this. We can only ask this. But again, like I said, there is a lot of fault that lies on journalists because they ask crap questions. There's an article in The Guardian by a guy called Jonathan Liu, who says he used to go to football press conferences, and there's one guy he didn't know, but he just called him first question guy, because he always just threw in. He thought his whole thing was throw in the first question, like all right. So how do you think that went? And that's always the same bloody thing. I know when I've had to do it for the offside line, and I think Andy Hill from the Glasgow Hawks wants to punch me in the face quite frequently because I have to go up there with like, all right, Andy, mate. Especially when they've lost, which happened quite a lot. There's this awkwardness, but I think the governing bodies and the journalists have to get to some middle ground whereby we are not overly pressuring the athletes, and some of them just aren't comfortable speaking in front of people.
I think, and I think a couple of the questions they were saying is, I think the tennis ones in particular are bad for this. And I don't know if it's because it's an individual sport, so you can't be protected in that way within a team. So, like I said, when we go and do the Scotland press conferences, Ian, they'll send out, Gregor Townsend will always come out. You'll always get the captain, whoever the captain at the time is, will always come out. And then they'll offer up a few players. And that'll depend on whether someone's one man of the match or just who they think is up to coming out and speaking to you at that point. And it's probably pre-agreed that these are players we'll send out. And you can then protect players that maybe aren't in the right place mentally. It's different in tennis, sport like tennis, because you can't do that. You can't hide behind somebody else on a team and put somebody else out if you're feeling particularly fragile. And some of the questions that they get asked is, well, why did you play so badly today? And they're quite brutal questions, and they're almost designed to get an antagonistic response. And I can see on the one side is, well, at least that generates a headline. But on the other side is it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't encourage players to open up either. So you end up with this really kind of mutual distrust on both sides. It's actually quite interesting what they do in America. I was speaking to a friend whose dad was a sports photographer, I think, in America. And Americans find it really weird what we do post-game, particularly in team sports, where you all sit nicely in a room in rows of chairs and somebody comes out and is put in front of behind a table with a tablecloth on it and some banners behind them. And it's all very formal and, everyone asks the question in terms very polite. In America, they open up the changing room and everyone just piles in and starts asking the players questions while they're stood there in their pants. But that's the way it is, and it's like complete open access, and that's just the way it's always been. And then there's like a kind of an understand, that, and you can get time with any player you want, and it's like, here's half an hour, we're going to open the changing rooms, in you come, boys, and then out you go, and you're gone. But you can then go. So I suppose it gives journalists a chance to go and speak to players that aren't going to, aren't normally spoken to, and that's just the way it is. It's not then as kind of, the pressure, I suppose, isn't to have to try and get the sound bite or the thing. So I don't know what the answer is, but it's not subjecting people. I mean, I can't think of any other job where you'd be subjected to that level of, it's not like you come up, you finish your day job and you've had a crap day at work, and then you have to sit behind a table in front of 20 people who are then going to ask you why you've had a crap day at work. Why were you so bad today? Why did you answer the phone in a grumpy manner?
And the thing
within half an hour as well. Something that should be quite emotionally devastating.
Half an hour of being utterly battered to the brink of physical exhaustion, usually. And then you're expected to be rolled out. And you've seen yourselves, like, we've all been in the press conferences, the players are literally rolled out. They're still in their kit. They're still covered in mud and blood and the works. There's no time
with their studs clanking off the.
There's still their studs. That's right. Yeah. And for every Tom Gordon, for every Finn Russell, you've got your Fraser Browns, you've got your Xanders, the quieter guys, and there has to be a balance. There has to be an understanding that.
I think Fraser Brown's an excellent orator.
He's excellent, but he doesn't like it. And I remember the first one I was at, Fraser Brown was rolled out, and I'm not going to name names, but some prominent Scottish journalists, when we heard that Fraser Brown was being offered up for interview, they're like, oh no, dull Fraser. So it's, because he's not a headline maker. He's not I'm going to say stuff that's going to give you like all your brilliant headlines. But
he is, when we talk about context, but he is when he's in a one-to-one situation, and he's done some really brilliant interviews,
exactly.
Really good interviews where he's kind of sat down and talked with somebody. I think then there's not that immediacy after a game. I think that's part of the problem. That's things I hate the on-pitch interviews after a game.
Oh,
they're completely
dreadful, yeah.
pointless. I mean, I know, the Sonia McLaughlin thing. I think I've got a lot of sympathy for Sonia McLaughlin. That Owen Farrell interview, she had to ask those questions, and I can understand why he was annoyed at the time with the way that he answered them. Neither of them were at fault. But it's on Farrell, I know. But it's what I don't see what you get from interviewing a losing captain and a losing coach immediately after a game has finished. Maybe the losing coach up a tunnel 20 minutes before you're due to end the broadcast after you've analysed the game. Fair enough. They'll have had time to go away, get their head straight, and come back. But we also like Greg Laidlaw one where he's pulled off the pitch in the quarter-final, and asking to react to what was a pretty gutting situation.
What you get is the potential for a headline, a really, really inflammatory headline, and that's what they're trying to create, and it's really bad. Yeah,
it's the manner in which the questions are asked, or the things that are worded, is a major thing. And this is something that journalists need to learn. I mean, there's Coco Gauff. Again, this is going back to tennis because of this whole thing with Naomi Osaka. Coco Gauff was asked a couple of years ago. It's like, you get compared to Serena Williams a lot. Is that just because you're black? And just go, I mean, for Christ, if I was in that room, I would just turn around and stare at a guy and go, fucking seriously?
Or you would stand up and go, you know what? No, interview's over. Bye, guys.
Yeah. So it's like, at least I've fulfilled my media commitment of being here, but I'm not answering that dumbass question.
Yeah.
It's these stupid questions that that prevent people from actually getting insight. And that's why the media, the media teams protect athletes and players so much.
And it is interesting.
With Osaka, could Osaka not have been asked, if she didn't want to do it? Because they have to go in on their own. Could you not be like, can I bring my coach or someone with me to help, or can he answer the questions on my behalf?
Can you give me an hour after the game? Can I do it an hour after?
And is that all he did was, what was hilarious in a oh my god, I can't believe they've done this. After all the Grand Slam committees had said they would consider throwing her out of all tournaments after that, the guy who made the statement refused to take questions. He makes this statement and then goes, "Name your questions, I'm off."
Well, welcome to upper class white man sport. Iain.
Entitlement.
It's that thing as well, though. That's what you get, isn't it? If you're going to force people to do that, you're going to end up with a Marshall and Lynch situation. We did this, I think, about a year ago when we were practicing for the last big club dinner. We were playing clips of Marshall and Lynch where he was getting fined so many times by the NFL for his behaviour and for not engaging with post-match interviews that he just turned up and said, "I'm just here so I don't get fined." And that's how he answered every single question. And that's where we're moving to in sport, is you're going to have guys come out saying, "I'm just here so I don't get fined. I'm just here so," and that's all you're going to get in return. And I think there's a balance, isn't it, between you need to somehow there need to be more opportunity for access to players on a one-to-one basis. It's probably more kind and gentle with like Iain was saying, with coaches or somebody else present to manage it, rather than we've got half an hour to try and get a headline, guys. Bombard this person with questions until they throw something back at you that you can then use as clickbait.
And I think we've ultimately got to go back to the whole concept of what you said, Cammy, is absolutely spot on. What are these men and women, literally girls and boys in some case, think of Coco Gauff getting interviewed at 15. What are these people's job? What is, to quote 300, what is your profession? They are sports people. They are not there to be, their job is to go and play tennis. Their job is to play rugby. Their job is to go and do their fitness work in the gym. Their job is not to give journalists clickbait.
Yeah.
And there is a mistrust of the media because of the way, and I think it probably has stemmed from football in some ways, because the football journalists have been quite provocative at times, but tennis journalists are terrible for it. Rugby's going that way as well. There is a mistrust of the media. There's always been a mistrust of the media. And we've even seen it in those rooms. You see that there is an atmosphere. That's not how it should be. It should be a mutual exchange of publicity. And it's not that. Their job is to go and play rugby. I think we really need to remember that.
Yeah. Well,
Grrr!
I think we've bottomed that out, haven't we?
Hansler, the official Pro 14 podcast seems to have a rule of the anti. Well, there's no Scottish people in that, is there?
No.
Funny that. I think you should go on it, Ian.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're scared of me, that's all.
It's because you've got a glorious beard, son.
Aye.
I'd outbeard a lot of them. All them put together.
There's no evolution. There's no beard evolution on the
That's
Pro
it.
14 podcast, is there?
Does
Everyone
this mean
knows.
would I be at the top or the bottom of the evolutionary scale? You know,
I think maybe at the moment you would possibly be at the top, actually, because you're slightly more beardy than me.
Yeah.
who knows?
I've been trimming.
Speaking of
I've been
trimming,
Cammy.
speaking of trimming,
Oh yes,
we are sponsored by Manscaped. I thought I'd leave it to the end this week,
Yeah.
rather than doing the top, because we wanted to talk about the Dodmaster. We are sponsored by Manscaped.com. If you go to manscaped.com/Scottish Rugby, then you can get 20% off a range of male grooming products. They've got ball deodorants, they've got ball toner, they've got clippers, they've got nose trimmers, they've got lovely, beautiful, what would you call, wash bags? For you put all your,
It's a
all
travel
your bits
bag.
and bobs. Travel bag. The trimmer for your downstairs area. You can use it elsewhere. John has used it on his head. I've trimmed my beard with it. I haven't also trimmed downstairs with that. I should add. I am hygienic, but you can use it in water. It is waterproof. I would add that as well. It's got a wee light on, USB chargeable. So you can get 20% off. Give it a go. Like I said, the world's opening up again. And you want to go and make yourself presentable when you go back out there as well. So visit manscaped.com/Scottish Rugby, or go to manscaped.com and use the code SRP and you'll get 20% off plus free shipping. You can also support the podcast by signing up to the Patreon for as little as £3 a month. That will get you in the Richie Vernon Thunderdome. In return, you get ad-free versions of the podcast, a little mini pod where we take out all the discussions about manscaping and non-rugby chat. And you can also get exclusive monthly content. So at some point this month, we're going to be doing our hardest players, Scottish players of the 2000s. So that'll be going out at some point this month. And we'll also do other bits and bobs as well. We've got a super secret social media group you can be part of. If you pay £5 a month, you get your name read out on the podcast and you're in the Doogie Donnelly Members Lounge. So there's that as well. That's it from us for this week, though. We've got nothing else to talk about. We've run it out dry. We're back next week to maybe review Edinburgh at Ulster if it goes ahead. Who knows at this stage? We'll either be there to talk about that or talk about something. We'll find something else to talk about next
John
week.
referenced Queens of the Stone Age earlier, so no one knows.
No one knows. That's a beautiful ending, Ian.
Beautiful ending. And so for the moment, it is goodbye from me and goodbye from John and Ian.
Cheerio.
Right, folks.
Bye-bye.